I have to say something unpleasant first. When you're 50, you don't need to get smarter. You just need to stop being stupid. It sounds simple, but almost no one can do it. I know too many people, smart, educated, and rich, but once they turn 50, they start to get anxious. They feel like they're falling behind. So they start chasing trends, try to make up for what they think they've missed. The result isn't getting rich overnight, but dying suddenly. I'm not kidding. I've seen too many people like this in my life. They take risks when they should be conservative, and they speed up when they should stop. Then, at the wrong time, they blow up their retirement savings. I often say that compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. You have to remember that it works on returns, and it works on stupidity just the same. If you make a mistake at 50, you may never have time for compound interest to solve it. And then people make mistakes. It's called when old people make mistakes. It's called bankruptcy. After 50, it's a lot of mistakes. Your health starts to you can control it now, your future habits. Not letting everything from the past go to waste. Some people say, I still want to take a gamble. That sounds like courage, but it's actually panic. They're not pursuing growth, but fleeing mediocrity. The problem is, the market doesn't care about your anxiety. It will only punish your impulsiveness. I know a man, 55 years old, successful in his career, with a house and a car, but he couldn't stand his friends showing off, having made 10 times his money on tech stocks. So he sold his stable dividend stocks and bought concepts that even he couldn't explain. A year later, his account was cut in half, and his retirement was delayed by 10 years. You see, this isn't an IQ problem. It's an emotional problem. After 50, the biggest enemy isn't inflation or market fluctuations, but your own unwillingness to accept things. The more you're afraid of falling behind, the more likely you are to fall behind. Investing is not a 100-meter dash. It's a marathon. After 50, you're not competing on speed. You're competing on endurance. It's about who can last the longest. Now stay steady and not make big mistakes. I was born in 1924 and lived through the Great Depression. That disaster taught me one thing sometimes. Just surviving is a victory. Many people back then didn't go bankrupt because they were stupid, but because they borrowed too much money, trusted the wrong people, or thought the good times would last forever. Every generation has to pay the stupid tuition fee all over again. So I have a piece of advice for people over 50 now is not the time to chase something, but to hold on to what you already have. You don't need to be a hero at this age. You need to be a survivor. At 50, the name of the game changes. When you're young, the game is called making money. Now, the game is called surviving. I've seen too many people over 50 who still dream of doubling their money. They see young people trading stocks and cryptocurrencies, doing short modest term trades, and think, I can do that too. But the problem is, I forget a simple piece of math that gives 50%. You need to make 100% just to break even. And you don't have that kind of time anymore. Before 50, you have the capital to make mistakes. After 50, you only have the obligation to defend. Young people can start over if they lose. They have time and energy, and they can slowly accumulate savings from their salaries. But you're different. You have to protect your life for the next 30 years. You have to make sure your pension doesn't evaporate and your assets aren't washed away. At this point, going on the offensive is not wisdom. It's gambling. I've always been conservative in my investments. Some people say I'm the cautious. But what I see of the smart people in the graveyard, they were much smarter than me. But they all died trying to get rich quick. Defense is not weakness. Defense is a form of respect. Respect for time, respect for probability, and respect for human nature. If you want to live long, don't gamble. If you want your money to last long, it's the same. Buffett and die. Our secret over the decades is in how many golden opportunities we seized and how many fatal pits we avoided. We never use leverage. We don't touch debt. And we don't invest in things we don't understand. This isn't being conservative. It's self-minded awareness. I often say debt is poison. A young person might drink it and still survive. An older person takes one sip, and they might be gone for good, because you don't have enough years to pay back your mistakes. No matter how smart you are, you can't withstand the backlash of compound interest. Compound interest makes wealth grow, but mistakes can also compound. Once a mistake starts rolling with interest, it becomes a disaster. Every decision after 50 should be based on whether you can survive. Not how much you can earn, but whether you can hold on. I know this sounds boring. The market is full of more exciting stories, but the financial world doesn't reward excitement. It only punishes it. If you want to sleep soundly, you have to make your investments boring. If you want your wealth to have a long life, you have to learn to be patient. I met a doctor who bought a basket of dividend stocks. He didn't read the news. He didn't do anything fancy. He just periodically reinvested his dividends. 20 years later, he wasn't fabulously wealthy, but he was free, dignified, and at peace. That's a real winner. At the same time, I also met another smart entrepreneur. He thought dividend stocks weren't too slow and played with real estate leverage. When the market turned, he went bankrupt at 57. 10 years of hard work. Gone overnight. That's the difference. It's not IQ. And it's discipline. It's not opportunity. It's patience. After 50, it's a good time to win there. It's a good time not to win. Make your mistakes is victory in itself. Number when they're young. Taking risks and fail. Taking risks only brings regret. Many people are earning savings debt. it's just an exaggeration. It's not. I saw its poison in action during the Great Depression in the 1930s. Back then, the streets were full of bankrupt banks, closed factories, and people lining up for bread. I still remember those men in suits who were bragging about their smart investments one day and shivering on the street corner the next, because their houses were repossessed and their savings were gone. They weren't stupid. They just used leverage. They thought it would magnify their returns, but it only magnified their mistakes. You have to remember, leverage is never your friend. When the wind is at your back, it makes you think you're a genius. When the wind is against you, it reveals how foolish you are. Young people can still handle this foolishness. After 50, you can't. Time is no longer on your side. You don't have that many years to pay back debt. And you don't have that much luck to make up for it. I've seen too many people in the last few years before retirement suddenly wake up and won't make their money work. So they take out loans to buy houses, and they use margin to trade stocks, thinking it's making their assets more efficient. They forget that efficiency is not the same as safety. Once the market turns, average will wipe out their retirement savings. Someone said, "Munger, you're too conservative. Without leverage, you make money too slowly." I say, then I'll be slow. It's better to live slowly than to die quickly. Debt is like alcohol. After one drink, you feel braver. After too many, you think you're smarter. But reality will always remind you that you're just drunk. Any people don't understand why Buffett and I almost never borrow money. The reason is simple: if you make decisions with debt, you are never free. When the market dips a little, you can't sleep. When inflation rises, you get anxious. When others make mistakes, you go down with them. This is wealth. It's a shackle. Debt will also corrupt your character. Once they borrow too much money, start looking for shortcuts. Lying, cheating, because they can't afford to lose. Their rationality is consumed by fear. And once fear enters the mind, investing is over. After 50, fear comes faster than courage, because you know you don't have the capital to start over. So my advice to you is completely stay away from debt and leverage. You're not doing business with the bank. You're gambling with probability. And the bank never loses. At this age, the only leverage you need is compound interest, not debt. One helps you grow. The other helps you perish. Whichever you choose, that's what your fate will choose. I've seen too many bankrupt investors in my life. Most of them were not defeated by the market, but by envy. Envy is the stupidest of the 7 deadly sins, because it has no pleasure in it. Greed can still get you money. Gluttony can still get you food. Lust can still bring pleasure. But envy only makes you suffer when others do well. Do you know how absurd that is? You get anxious when others make money. You take risks when others show off. In the end, you lose money and go bankrupt. and you're still uneasy in your old age. This isn't a game. It's torture. After 50, the price of envy is especially fatal because you don't have time to make up for your foolishness. When you're young, being envious might cost you a few banknotes. When you're old, being envious might cost you your dignity, your pension, and your peace. I knew a very smart lawyer at 55, seeing his peers getting rich from tech stocks. He couldn't take it. He borrowed money to speculate on companies he knew nothing about. A year later, the market crashed. His account was cut in half, and it took him 10 years to pay off the debt. He wasn't stupid. He was just envious. Envy makes people lose their logic and makes them stare at other people's numbers and forget their own path. Then you suddenly see someone next to you making money faster. So you turn, speed up, and crash. In the 1990 seconds, Buffett and I were also laughed at. Those young guys in Silicon Valley were making billions out of thin air, while we were still investing in candy. Newspapers say, well, to teach me something. And insurance companies. The media laughed at us for being old modest fashioned, saying we were too slow and too boring. Then, when the dot-com bubble burst into thousands, all those who laughed at us were wiped out. We were still rich. What's the lesson? The goal of investing is not to beat others, but to not lose yourself. Envy will steal your judgment. It makes you think being steady is falling behind. Being rational is being timid. And being boring is a waste of time. But the reality is the opposite. Happiness is strength. Personality is boredom. And boredom is a very hotbed of talking about anyway. It's just a primary terms with others. You understand. But to survive. If it only does this in life long, it's a miracle of compound interest. The math doesn't lie. If you spend more than you earn, you will be poor. If you live within your means, you will be free. This isn't philosophy. It's a law of physics. So after 50, stop chasing cleverness. That's a luxury. Chase stability and independence. And others are excitedly placing their bets. You smile quietly. When others are anxiously fleeing, you hold on tight. You don't need to win. You just need to not be eliminated. The end of the wealth game is not excitement, not speed, but peace. To be able to live long, to be able to hold on steady, to be able to sleep soundly. At that point, you've won.